How we doing, everyone? Have we recovered now that it's been over a week from that amazing final that saw Orange County lift the USL Championship Cup? I know I'm still slightly shocked. I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's been crazy. And maybe this episode and the final couple episodes of 2021 will help us figure things out. But we're going to do this. We're going to talk about some player grades. We're going to evaluate the performances for this team. So let's get this thing started. Welcome to the Podcast of Champions. This is the Orange and Black Soccer Cast.
This is the Orange and Black Soccer Cast, the first and only podcast dedicated to Orange County Soccer Club, its fans, and supporters. Follow us on Twitter at OCSC_SoccerCast or on Facebook at Orange and Black Soccer Cast.
How's it going, Orange County? Welcome to the Orange and Black Soccer Cast, the first and only podcast dedicated to Orange County Soccer Club, its fans, and supporters. I'm your host, Ray Samora, and I'm going to take you through this amazing journey as we discuss all things Orange County Soccer Club. Sorry, I'm a little out of breath. I had to run up and say goodnight to the kiddos. I forgot to do that before we got started, and I was running around the house like crazy. So I could take a breath or take a break and catch my breath. Let's welcome on the man who's been on this pod since day one, Dylan from Counterline Coalition. How we doing, my man?
I'm doing well. I haven't been drinking since last week's episode, so feeling pretty good in that regard because it was a long little bender that I had going there from when I landed in St. Pete to last week's show. But I'm happy as ever to be here.
Have you recovered now? Are you back to normalcy? Or are you still a little bit on that high from the victory?
I like to think of my day-to-day, I'm pretty normal, and then I'll just kind of drift off and think about what happened. And I don't know if that'll ever become normal, but I mean, we won the cup, man. That's something I didn't necessarily, it's not something I thought would have happened halfway through the season or at most points. So it's still very, very, very special.
Yeah, and you were there, so I mean that makes it even more special. Let's talk to the man up north and west, and that's Mr. Brad up in Reno. Unfortunately, you never got to celebrate this long after Reno's seasons, but jumping ship to Orange County this season, how does it feel?
Oh, it still feels great, and don't worry, Dylan. I got it for you. I got some nice High West whiskey and a High West little Glencairn, but because that I am a monster, I have pre-poured a brand new bottle of the good stuff.
Oh man, there's something wrong with you. No one should be drinking Malort ever,
unless you're forced to by Reno fans before.
This is
match.
Completely and totally on my own. Salud.
I don't think salud counts for that, man. That's not right.
Like you got to do your prayers before you drink that stuff.
Yeah, that's against nature, Brad. That's against nature. I'm sorry.
Not bad.
And anyone that has no idea what we're talking about, if you've never tried Malort, it tastes. If
Just
you were to
Google
go into your
Malort
cabinet,
face.
if you go into your cabinet and grab some rubbing alcohol, that's probably what it's going to taste like. I'm not saying drink rubbing alcohol, but that's probably what you're getting out of that Malort stuff.
It's just very, very, very bitter.
If you haven't had it, just don't.
Don't do it. Yes.
To answer Russell's question, because he asked which High West brand I have, this is a Costco exclusive. It's a rye whiskey aged in Syrah barrels. It was like $40. It's actually really good for the price.
We're going to become that podcast where people drink whiskey and talk. There's a podcast that already does that, Brad, so we can't really do that.
There's dozens that do that.
Well, let's get into this. We're here to talk about player grades. We're here to grade the performances of the team throughout the season. Now, reminder to everyone, we are looking at the grades in whole for the entire season. So that makes it a little bit difficult because this almost feels like it was three separate parts of the season, right? The first part was pretty good. The middle part was just horrible. And then the last, 9-10 matches, the Richard Chaplow era became a dream that people are still trying to wake up from, or maybe they don't want to wake up from it, right? So here's how it's going to work. We've randomly chosen order. In the past, we've done specific orders, whether it was we did defense to midfield to forwards, or I think last year or last season we did least minutes to most minutes. I put all the names of every player that played or was on a roster with Orange County, at least per fbref.com, and put them into a random generator, created this list. So this order, other than us looking at it briefly before the show, is not prepared. So we're going to go through this, and what we're going to do is we're going to give school-like grades, A, B, C, D, F, whatever we want to call these grades, we will do. Unfortunately, Alan is not here, and he did not provide grades, so all his grades will just be, we'll ask him to share them next week briefly, just give a quick rundown of these grades. For time constraints, I'm going to ask each of my co-hosts that we don't talk too much about each of them, but share your thoughts on why you're giving the grade, but do not go too long. We do also have a guest scheduled to come on shortly, a really special guest that we're excited to have on here tonight. So let's do this. Let's talk about some player grades. And the first player that came up randomly on the list, Mikko Kuningas, the midfielder, came over from Finland and I think shocked most of Orange County Soccer Club. I'm going to go to Brad first as the newcomer. You get to go with grades first.
So
grade for Mikko.
So I feel like I'm the lowest end of the list here. I graded Mikko an A-, and that has nothing to do with, I thought for most of the season he was an A player. But at the beginning of the season, he did start off a little rocky and make a couple mistakes that I think he could have, started off on a stronger foot. So I think an A is very fitting, or an A- is very fitting for him. And so that's where I ended up.
I'm going to go next to Dylan. Before we get Dylan's grade here, I want to remind everyone. So for Mikko, he had 3 goals, 4 assists throughout the whole season. Oh, and he led the team in cards, 10 yellow cards through 2021. Dylan, your grade for Mikko Kuningas.
Yeah, I went ahead and gave Mikko an A, just a regular A. He played a lot. He played quite a few different roles, was asked to do a lot of different things, even within those roles, with the coaching change and even game to game. And he was, he was happy to do it, or at least he seemed happy to do it. And he was reliable, even if he did pick up a lot of yellow cards and miss out on a match due to accumulation. Which just seems like maybe his style isn't super common in the U.S. So he's this like hardworking, hard tackling, trash talking midfielder, and it seems like maybe that kind of runs him into some trouble occasionally. But I can't fault him for that. He drew a couple red cards that really helped us out, and he really helped us out with this play. So give him the A. Also, I mean, like a heavy metal Mikko time is just so fun. So yeah, he gets an A just for that too.
And before I give my grade, I want to remind everyone that is listening live, feel free to share your grades for these players, and we will pop them up on the screen here as we go through this. We like to hear what everyone thinks on this. My grade for Mikko, and it's weird for me to start off our grades agreeing with Dylan on a grade, but I'm going to agree with Dylan. I went with an A for Mikko Kuningas. Here's part of my grade. He played the role, and I'm going to be family friendly here, of the get under your skin player for the opponent. Like he was the player that basically tried to agitate the opposing team, tried to make them commit those fouls, get those cards, get ejected, whatever it may be. You need that type of player if you're going to be successful in any league. And USL, we saw that prime example. Mikko gets out there, and he wasn't just that player. He could score goals, and he had he was amazing at free kicks. And let's not forget the goal in the final to probably what we'll say seal the victory there, because I think once you get to that 3-0 scoreline, Tampa's done. They have no chance at coming back. For his ability to do all of that, score, assist, and be that good teammate that's going to take one for the team 10 times on the season, he gets the A from me. And it looks like a lot of people are agreeing more with Dylan and I than with Brad. So Brad, you're losing at this point.
Why does this have to be a competition here? Miko Kaningas played the Dennis Rodman role, in my opinion, and very good at it. And he came up clutch with a couple of huge shots and big goals on the year and big assists. So, any A is a good grade here.
Perfect. Let's move on. And this next person is someone that I forgot all about until I go to FB Ref and see that he was on the roster. He was officially on the roster for a very short period of time. I think we welcomed him, and then we found out he's gone. This is the country singing soccer player who's yet to release the album with Alan. Alan was supposed to, produce something for Hunter with some auto tune or something. This is Hunter Haynes. I'm going to say this right now. I think we all agree on this grade, but I'll let everyone go through and share their grade really quick. Brad.
He didn't play. I put a DNP.
Or a W. I think you put a W, but maybe you're changing that. I don't know. Okay, he changed it. Dylan, what was your grade?
Yeah, with withdrawal because he technically left to go play the Air Force. Good luck to him, and whatever.
Yeah, no, and same thing here. W. He didn't play, but he was on the roster. He withdrew from class, went elsewhere, petitioned for another class while there was still time to do so before they locked up the classes. So he gets the W here with Orange County. Or you can also go with an incomplete.
Can I grade him for Alan? Alan gives him
what
an
are you
F.
going to give a grade for Alan?
Alan gives him an F. He didn't get the album complete and turned in. It's a 0.
Well, is that really Hunter's fault, or did Alan send him the lyrics and the music to get the recording? I don't think Alan did his part of that. Let's move on to another player that maybe was slightly forgotten this season. He was with Orange County just for a short period of time on loan, but boy, did he have an impact with his team early on in the season. That's Avion Flanagan. Let's go in a different order. I'm going to go to Dylan first for this one. Dylan, what was your grade for Avion?
I gave him a W, which is not to discount what he did while he did here. He was quite good. Earned himself a recall back to Cincinnati and then spent the rest of the season on loan in Tulsa. But I mean, 6 matches played wasn't quite enough, though I do wish we had him for more because for a long time we didn't have a left back and that was quite problematic. But he earned that recall when he was here. But making a 5th or under a 5th of under a 6th of the appearances available to him in a season is probably not enough to warrant a real grade.
Brad, you have a grade for Avion?
I'm gonna give him a B-. I agree with Dylan that he when he was with Orange County, he held his own, for 50, 60, 70 minutes on his own for a couple games. He's a free agent now. He did not get his his contract renewed with Cincinnati. He's a guy I'd love to see back here in Orange County if he doesn't go back to Tulsa.
I was going to say the wonder would be is he qualified for the reentry draft? I know there's other names, former players. Daniel Crisostomo didn't get LAFC didn't keep him. But from what I know, he goes back into the reentry draft. So I know in the past we've seen things like this happen with like Andre Rawls. Orange County fans were sort of hoping that, when he got released, he would come back, but he went to the reentry draft and went elsewhere. So we'll see. There's a lot of names that didn't get picked up. That would be exciting to see where they end up next season. And if any of them maybe come back to Orange County. Let me get my grade really quick for Avion. I gave him actually, I believe my official grade is a B. Although he was only here for 6 matches, he did start 3 of those matches. He played big minutes in all those matches, and he made an impact on the pitch early on in the season. He did even picked up an assist for the season. So I felt like that deserves some sort of grade. And maybe I'm just being nice this year because I know in the past I've been pretty crucial or critical of some of these players. But I went with a B for Avion. Next on our list, and that is a typo on our nice little graphics that we have up there, courtesy of our producer, Andy. But we do have Daniel Fondes, someone that's been on the roster now for a couple seasons, but has not really seen any playing time. 0 minutes played on the season from him, but still he was part of the roster for the full season. He was part of the roster last season. Do we have grades for Daniel, or are we all pretty much in the same category here? Let me go to Brad first. Brad's grade is so good that he decided to mute himself before giving us the grade.
I wasn't at practices to see Daniel and how he contributed to the team environment during the practice and pregame environment. So DNP.
Dylan?
Yeah, he's a great guy. I got to talk to him in Tampa, but these player grades are based on what you do when you make appearances, and he didn't make any. But it's an important role. I mean, being that third keeper, and he doesn't seem to have too many complaints, so that's great. And everyone seems to like him too, so good for him.
So what was your grade?
Incomplete.
Incomplete. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you on that, Dylan. We're agreeing pretty close on some of these things, Dylan. Although you were too scared to give Avion a grade. I'm giving him an incomplete, although maybe he deserves a grade because I'm sure he plays a big role in the practices, in the training sessions. A lot of times that third keeper is at least out there doing some of the dirty work in practices, helping get some of the players some reps and some shots and stuff like that. So, but because we didn't see him in match action, an incomplete. Next up on the list, we've got the Loney that came over from San Jose and had a spectacular season, at least in my opinion, for Orange County. Played a big part in this championship for the team. That's Eric Calvillo. I'm going to go first on the grades on this just to switch things up a little bit. I thought he was outstanding for this team. I thought he was one of the most important players down the stretch. And we talked about this last week. He was probably that stealth man of the match in the final. Although that award goes to Ronaldo Damas, he was a key part of that midfield that was just spectacular against Tampa Bay. I give him an A for the season based on everything that went on. The only reason he doesn't get that plus at the end of it is because of some of the struggles he had early on in the season, trying to find his place with his team and that struggle that we had that middle part of the season. Dylan, your grade. No copying, Dylan. No copying.
Oh, well, that's a shame. I gave him an A. I think he did a really good job as the season wore on and really became such a crucial aspect of how he played under Richard Chaplow. And expecting that from Loney, it seemed like he took a couple weeks to get his footing under him, and that should be to be expected, if I'm honest. But missed a match because he was on international duty because he was playing so well here, and then he's been on international duty last week as well. So kudos to him. He absolutely deserves an A here. And that free kick against San Diego was chef's kiss. That was beautiful.
And what about you, Brad?
I'm the high end here. I gave it A+, mostly because I've known Calvillo for a while, and this is a completely different player than we saw in Reno. But once when Chaplow really took over and Calvillo started finding his role, just look at any game. The ball is played to him frequently. They trusted him with the keys to the offense of distributing the ball, and he played the part very well. Calvillo is one of my MVPs down the stretch. And I thought, not just that goal against San Diego, but, just played very well down the stretch. So I know I go against the grain with what I said about Miko, and he had a bad not bad, but lackluster early season. But I just like Calvillo and what he brought to the end of the year.
We see the Reno connection is clouding your judgment there, Brad, but we won't blame you for that. Were you going to say something?
I was going to say my other Reno players are sometimes a little bit worse graded than what you guys put. So I'll hold back on that because I think the rest of them are later today or this weekend or next week, whatever.
We're doing a weekend show apparently per Brad. Let's move on to this. You got to stop drinking the Malort, Brad. That's what it is. Let's move on to our next grade here, and that's for team captain Michael Orozco. Orozco. I think even speaking with Mike Watts, it was like, how do you pronounce it, right? The team captain and the one when we watch all the cup celebrations out there, he's the one starting those with his cool little dance he does. Dylan, can you show us how that dance goes?
There is absolutely no chance. I mean, I could, but I'm not going to. I'm pretty sure I could do it too, but no, there's no way.
What we'll do, Dylan, is if we ever do get a chance to be with those cups again, you will mimic that dance for us in front of the cups. How about that as a deal?
No.
But let's go to the grades. Brad, I'll go to you first, even though we just heard from you about Eric Calvillo. What is your grade for Michael
Yeah,
Orozco?
I'm gonna follow up again with another A plus. If you came to somebody and who was 35 and said, "Hey, I want you to play all but 3 minutes of a complete season," most 35-year-olds would probably not come anywhere near that. Michael Orozco played in every single game, held down a very tight defense, especially down the stretch, and played all but 3 or 4 minutes in the Las Vegas Lights game. So I don't think you can go anything else. He's the captain. He's the heart of the team.
Dylan, do you agree with Brad?
Yeah, almost word for word. I was going to pull up the fact that he played in every single game, and just how important that was, and captained the team in almost every single game as well. And I just think what he managed to do at his age is simply stunning. He'll be 36 by the time the next season rolls around. And wow, I mean, it was really just something to see him play as a center back, as a defensive midfielder, as a right back, as a left back, and perform pretty well in all of those situations. I've gotten him on in the past for elbowing a player. I've gotten him on in the past for having a tendency to kind of leave his position and end up really high up the pitch. And he stopped doing that this year, and he really stopped doing that under Richard Chaplow. And it was, I mean, he deserved to lift that cup. So A+ as well. Also, he handed me the cup, so that was pretty cool. He's a good dude.
Yeah.
Oh, and I took shots of Patron with his family, so they're all great as far as I'm concerned. Top family.
This is Dylan's year to be happy about this team. In the past, Dylan maybe has been a little cranky with some of the players at the end of the season, but this is a one where he's probably still on the high from that championship.
They earned it, man.
I'm not quite as I guess nice as the two of y'all, although I did give him an A.
Somewhere out.
Yeah, I gave him an A. But after hearing y'all your arguments from the arguments from the two of you, maybe I was wrong there. But I put the grades down. I'm going to keep him as is at the A. And yeah, he was a key part, or he was the key part of that solid defense at the end of the season there that led to this cup victory. I think just there was a small part of the season where maybe wasn't the greatest. I don't know, but yeah, I'll change it. A+ for Michael Orozco for that. I'm going to go for it.
See, now you look wishy-washy. You should have stuck with the A.
Hey, you know what? It's
now we can bully you into giving. Oh, God. All right, S'more out, everyone. This is insane.
Let's go from the oldest player on the roster to one of the youngest players on the roster, a player that just got his call up to the senior national squad for the U.S., and that's Kobe Henry. Kobe Henry, pretty impressive season for the young player, the youngster from Orange County Soccer Club. Probably played a lot more than any of us were anticipating at the beginning of the season. 18 matches, 16 starts, even had a goal in the season that was up in Oakland. If we can all remember that assist from Miko Kuningas on that one. Brad, your grade for Kobe Henry.
You know, I think Kobe Henry, especially early on in the season, was very mistake prone. Or leaving his man and kind of getting lost in the defense. But as the season went on, with whatever minutes he had with the team in his 18 games, I thought he got a lot better, started marking his man properly, and he's earned a call up to the senior team after playing with the U17, U18 team. He's a very quality player. He's still young and he has a lot of time to learn and get even better, and hopefully go international, or who knows.
Perfect.
Did I say B-? I said
if you didn't, you
so.
said
I gave him a B- if I didn't say that already.
So my grade slightly different, differs slightly from you, Brad. I gave him a B. I think when you look at the beginning of the season, if we would have looked at Kobe Henry and the season he had, none of us would have expected this. So I feel like he did better than was anticipated. Now, yes, he did make some mistakes, but he's 17 years old playing professional soccer in the second tier of U.S. soccer. So you can expect that there's going to be some mistakes on the pitch from a player at that age. But I felt like in the times he was asked to do stuff and be a key player, he worked really well. He did his work. You look at, we asked him to come in and play when Rob Kiernan went out in the in the Colorado Springs match in the first round of the playoffs, and he did his job. He was solid in there, and that shows the growth that he had. And this call-up for the U.S. national team proves that as well. But because of some of those mistakes he made, I can't get him to the A level, but I definitely went a little bit higher than you, Brad, with a B. Dylan, your grade for Kobe.
I'll give him a B minus. I think it's incredible that he's quite a few years younger than me, still in school and is playing professionally and doing pretty well. I feel like he started off on the season when he started actually making the team and actually getting some minutes, doing pretty well. And then he just had a torrid run in late July, early August, where I think he was mostly playing because Michael Orozco had to fill in elsewhere and we really didn't have the numbers, and he just was not doing particularly well. He got dropped for a while, came back, seemed to play a little bit better, and really stepped into his own there. It seems like the work that he'd put in, he kind of figured stuff out. But he did haunt us for a little while, and I was kind of quietly on this he should be dropped train. But it's growth, and I'm excited to see what we can see out of an 18-year-old Kobe Henry, and that's hopefully another 1,500 minutes next season.
No, that'd be awesome if we could see that, and the improvement is that there's tons of growth opportunity there for him. One last player, and then we'll bring on our special guest. Let's get to our next one, and that's Nathan Smith, defender for Orange County. He was a returning player from last season and had a pretty solid season, appeared in 17 matches, starting 13 of those. He chipped in with 2 assists on that. What do we think for Nathan, Dylan?
I gave him a B minus. It's not his fault that he was injured for a large stretch of the season. Just compared to 2020 Nathan Smith, I feel like my expectations are a little bit higher for what he could have managed after he put Solomon Asante in his pocket. But he didn't put too many feet wrong to kind of doom us or anything. Just often getting unlucky for late goals that we conceded. But I would have liked to see a little bit more from him.
What about you, Brad?
I was unmuted. I pretty much agree mostly with Dylan there. But I did just for time missed and not playing as much. I gave him a C plus instead of a B minus.
Oh, you changed it. You went to C plus. All right. I was, I guess, the nicest out of the three of us here for this. I gave Nathan Smith a B plus. I felt you look into this roster, there are multiple outside backs when you have Kevin Alston, Brent Richards, and Nathan Smith. So you can't expect him to be out there every single match. But when he was called upon, he did his job. He was solid on defense, rarely made the mistakes, and was a key part, again, to this defense that was a really solid defense to close out the season. So I had to give Nathan Smith a B plus. So I was the nicest out of all of us for that. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break from our grades here as we go ahead and bring on our very special guest for the evening, back for, I don't know how many times now on this show, but he is now back on as the head coach, official head coach of Orange County Soccer Club. And that's Mr. Richard Chaplow. Richard, how are you feeling? Have you come down from the high of winning that championship in Tampa Bay, and are you now settling into your off-season routine, or are you still feeling the excitement from that?
I'm actually beavering away planning for next season, so I haven't had too much time to reflect and sit back and relax yet. So I'm sure those days are on the horizon. But first and foremost, got a little bit of business to take care of as we look forward to the 2022 season. With obviously we've got 5 weeks extra than some of the other teams, so a little bit behind the curve, and all hands to the pump, as they say.
So let me ask you this. I'm sure you've been asked this multiple times, but that final in Tampa Bay was a little bit un-Orange County Soccer Club, the way they were playing the end of the season. It was always like a 1 or 2 goal score for Orange County, and it was always a really close match. And Orange County went and put 3 up unanswered against Tampa Bay in that first half. A, was that any kind of surprise to you? And B, how did that happen? Like, how did Orange County just dominate Tampa Bay in that first half?
Yeah, I think ultimately in all the games we've played in, we've created in the majority of them enough opportunities to score more than I felt that the goals that we got, which were, more often than not, it was a 1-0 scoreline, especially in the back 7 or 8 games. So I just think it was a matter of us obviously taking our chances and being a little bit more clinical in front of goal. Something that we worked on, but it comes down to the player in that moment and the decision they make, the execution that they have. So obviously we were delighted that we were able to take them in the main championship game. If we were saving them up for any game, then that would be the one that you want to do it for. So delighted that we were able to just take and take them chances and then come out on top with them goals.
A lot of people look at that third goal of that first half as sort of the knockout punch. Like they're looking at that as Tampa Bay really couldn't recover from that at that point. We saw early in the season, Eric Calvillo take a free kick from a very similar position and curl it into the upper left hand of the post. And then in the final, he's lined up there with Mikko, but Mikko ends up taking the kick. We heard from our guest last week, Mike Watts, or was it? Yeah, it was last week, right? I can't remember now, or 2 weeks ago. I don't remember when it was. We heard from Mike Watts that Mikko was struggling a little bit in training the day before with those free kicks, but he went and took that shot. Who makes that call? Is that you making the call and who's taking it, or is it between Eric and Mikko out there standing over the ball?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's my call on who stands over the ball, but it's their call on who sees it at that moment. Obviously the players take responsibility in the set play routine. We have, I don't know, a handful really from different scenarios and different positions on the field that we can run. I think we've been a team this year that has been effective from set plays, but ultimately on the direct ones, the ones that are going on goal, it's down to the players over the ball to decide which one wants it and which one sees it from their angle, so to speak. So obviously Mike Watts and Devin Kerr were out there watching the final training session. So they probably got a better look at Mikko and Eric practicing those free kicks because I think I was whisked off to do the media. So it's something they always practice. Majority of the time it is on a Friday as we have match prep on that day. But both of them and Brian Olowski are always practicing that technique, and it's vital. Obviously, it's not something we've been too forthcoming with in recent seasons since I've been here. So nice to get one, and obviously it was a high quality free kick, and we know Mikko's capable of that.
And let me just correct myself. It was actually Devin Kerr on another show that I guested with him on that he mentioned that it was not Mike Watts. So I apologize. I don't want to use the wrong names there.
That's okay. They were both out of the session, so they very much almost the majority of the time, I think, very close to each other in their interviewing. So you're not far off.
Now, obviously, Orange County is not, if from Orange County to Tampa Bay is not a bit of travel. So there was a limited amount of fans that made the trip out there to Al Lang Stadium. But were you able to feel the energy coming from that small group of fans that made the trip out there? Could you hear their voices on the pitch, or were you so focused on the match that they were just blacked out and you were focused on what's going on out there on the pitch?
No, you definitely could feel the energy. It was a good atmosphere inside the stadium. We're very grateful for obviously the fans coming out and supporting us on such a long trip. We know it's not an easy travel. So very, very grateful that we were able to actually share then obviously the victory with them as well. It's a unique experience. It's a rare one to, I've been in a professional environment for many, many years, I think a couple of decades, and only been able to, have moments like that probably 5 or 6 times. So they don't come around often. Some people never get to experience them at all. So to experience them first and foremost as an organisation was fantastic, but it was extra special to obviously be able to do that with the fans.
Now, you mentioned, you haven't had much time to celebrate the victory because you're already prepping for 2022. Without giving anything away and without saying anything you can't, what is part of that preparation going on for 2022? And are there any key players that you're excited that are coming back next season that you're ready to work with a full season?
Yeah, obviously nothing's public knowledge yet, so can't share too much, unfortunately. But obviously we're very happy with the roster we had this year. We've gone on and won a championship with that roster. We'll be looking and working hard to retain as much of it as we possibly can. There's always movement in the roster at the end of every year, not just for us, but across the world in this business that we have, and that's just an organic thing that happens. It's a natural sort of refreshment, whether that's for the individual needing another challenge, things might not be quite right for them at the club, or whether that's us looking to just go a little bit of a different direction for many reasons. But what I can say is that we're working hard to retain as many of the boys we can that make sense. The other side of the things we're planning is boring stuff. Pre-season fixtures, pre-season camp when that starts, looking at ways we can improve as an organisation to improve the performance environment, even conversations down to uniforms for next year as well. So lots of things that you need to do that maybe goes on behind the scenes that people aren't always aware of, but them decisions don't happen by magic. People obviously spend a lot of hours sort of delegating and communicating on these things. Yeah.
I have one more question for you, and then I'll hand it off to Dylan with his questions. At the last home match of the season against San Antonio, the club unveiled the new mascot, Gnarly, onto the side of the pitch. Did you get a chance to speak with Gnarly before the match? Because I know he made that opening kick, a decent kick, I thought, for any mascot to make. Did you get a chance to give him any pointers on how to get that into the net?
I'll be honest, I wasn't aware that Gnarly could talk, but maybe he can. I don't know. It's no pleasure, obviously, on that front to get a mascot for the club. I think it's important for the community. I remember being a kid and growing up watching Burnley. They had Bertie B, so he was always on the sideline doing his worm and celebrating with the fans, and it just adds an extra little bit of connection and brings a little bit more energy to game day. So delighted that we could unveil him for the fans. But other than a hug, I think, after the Western Conference final win, that's the only interaction I've had.
I know I'm handing it off to Dylan, but I got to ask Dylan really quick because I want you part of this question, Richard. Are we glad we didn't get the weird mascot that Dylan brings up all the time that plays in a lower division in England, I believe, or in Scotland? Is it Patrick Thistle?
Partick, but yeah.
Partick Thistle, you were close.
Okay. I was close. What do you think? Who's better, Gnarly or their weird-looking mascot that looks like a sun that was drawn by a 3-year-old?
We'll go for Gnarly, huh? We have to support our own.
Perfect. Dylan, go for it.
I love it. We'll take a quick look back, Richard, at last season. 17 matches, I believe, that you were in charge. Two losses, 3 draws, I think, in those, and we're winning a cup at the end of it. Yeah. How big of a professional? I mean, obviously, you had some pretty big highs with Southampton, but how big of a joy is that for you as a professional?
Yeah, I think ultimately it's obviously it's my first taste of being a head coach. Obviously coached now in a professional environment for 3 years, but in respect to being the coach and leading the team, the first taste of that, obviously special because I started with this club. I think 6 years ago, I think it was, or at least 6 seasons I've been involved in, and I came in 3 months towards the end of the last season for Aussie Blues. And I think the biggest thing is the growth of the club over those years. One of the reasons I joined was the vision and the project that Oliver and James put in front of me, and I think to be part of something that is bigger than yourself is always rewarding. To be the person that's at the helm of that and given the responsibility to lead the team into a Western Conference final, and then into where I failed as a player, I suppose we could say, and then into the championship was special. Obviously, something I'm extremely grateful for. And yeah, it's like I said, it's not something you get to experience very often in your career. To experience it 17 games into my first tenure of a head coach job is probably something that's not achieved very often either. So yeah, always grateful, and obviously happy that we were able to get the job done. But now we've got a big job on our hands to fight everyone off next year and protect our title.
Paul Hardiman, about 20 years your senior, was right in your ear for most of the year. Is he a big aspect of building towards 2022, or is he moving on to different pastures?
Yeah, I mean, Paul was a massive part of everything, really. I knew of Paul's qualities coming in to Orange County because of the people that he'd worked with in England were ex-colleagues of mine and friends of mine. So, I knew we were getting a high-quality coach and a wonderful person as well. He obviously had so much value to the organisation. And, quite often when I talk, I deliberately say we. When I say we, I obviously mean me and Paul and the coaching staff, because it is a group effort on that side of things. We talk a lot about teamwork on the field, but it's teamwork off the field as well. And Paul will hopefully be with us again next year. In what capacity, we're still discussing that side of things, but we're excited to have him back in Orange County, working with the teams and adding his experience, which ultimately no certificate or qualification makes you a good coach. It's the experiences that you've had. And Paul's oddly, like you said, 20 years my senior, he's had more than me. So he's definitely a wise old owl in that respect, somebody I respect on their opinion, and somebody whose opinion I trust in the heat of the moment and the heat of the battle. And he did a great job at guiding us through.
Alrighty, I got one question for you. So the USL has always kind of been this proving ground for young players and kind of a place for veterans to prove that they still have it. Kind of your Kobe Henrys and Michael Orozco's. Where do you see Orange County fitting in for these players' careers in terms of building up young players to bigger and better teams, or what role do you want to have with younger and more veteran players?
Yeah, I think ultimately we're a club that I think we're quite open and transparent about our targets as a franchise and as an organisation. We want to be a club that ultimately competes for championships, as hard as that is to do year in, year out. And we want to be a club that gives local or national talent a platform to come to Orange County, perform, and put them in the shop window for them to go on to bigger and better things. I think ultimately we all know that obviously we've just managed to tick the box of the championship, but then on the second hand of that, we've got Kobe Henry with the national team this week, going into the game in LA with them. So really, really exciting times with the club, and for Kobe as an individual. These things don't happen overnight, should I say, and a lot of work goes into him on a weekly and daily basis. As a person, Kobe is incredibly humble and has his feet on the ground, which is ultimately why he's been able to implement maybe a little bit quicker than others the messages that he's been given. And it just obviously shows that he's gone into a U20 camp for the tournament. Impressed the US national coaches so much so that he's been given the opportunity with the full national team. So what sort of role do I want to play with that? I think ultimately I just want to continue supporting them. I want to continue supporting not just Kobe, but any of the younger players that we have in our squad, and they'll play if they deserve to. It has to be earned and not given. And in respect to the veterans, they're incredibly vital for what we want to do in respect to giving Kobe Henrys that mentorship, them role models to look up to and sort of model themselves on a daily basis, because ultimately experiences come from what you see more than what you're told. And, we speak with Kobe a lot, but the experiences he gains on the field, the experiences he gains from being in the locker room with people like Michael Orozco are the reasons that he's now able to get the opportunity that he's getting. So both of them have to go hand in hand, and we're aware that it's a balance that's continually moving.
All right, and then I know that I'm not the only one who's noticed over your right shoulder, but you got this nice little liquor cart there, and I think that's a Balvenie 12-year at the very front. So do you drink scotch, and what's your favorite region and bottle of scotch that you might have in that collection?
I'll just stick with the Balvenie. It was actually a gift from Oliver, and it's actually a Balvenie 21. So it's a special bottle that he passed along to me after the Western Conference final. So he's a big whiskey and scotch guy, Oliver, and he's very generous with his offerings when things are going well. So. Unfortunately, I'm not blessed. We do live in Orange County with a huge house, so you've got me in my living room right now, and yes, that is pretty much the bar behind me. Yes.
Perfect. We don't want to take up any more of your time, Richard. We know you've got important stuff to do, like planning for the 2022 season, and to do that, you got to get well rested overnight. So we don't want to keep you up too late. But I do want to ask one last question. How does it feel now to have, in front of your name, in front of your title as coach, as championship coach, one last time? How does that feel, just for you personally?
Yeah, obviously delighted. The achievement is big. I never want to really, I suppose, crown myself in too much glory. I'm quite a level-headed guy in that respect. Having experienced so much in the game, the ups and downs, I know that the work is just beginning. But yeah, delighted with that achievement. A lot of hard work and effort went in it, just from everybody at the club, from the backroom staff to the players, to the front office. So everybody played a big part in what we achieved, and internally grateful for the moment. But we're only just beginning, hopefully, and fingers crossed we can perform again next year and see where we go. But at least we'll be getting back to a conference that's expanded out now to the 32 teams again, or 31 teams, I think, because Oklahoma have pulled out by the looks of it. So it'd be nice to play everybody twice rather than everybody 4 or 5 times, or whatever it ended up being. And I'm looking forward to getting back to work and start of February, and hopefully competing again for another championship. But delighted with that one, and it's always there. The memory is forever with us. They can't take that away, but look forward to creating many more.
And I know all the fans are looking forward to this 2022 season, to not just celebrate the championship that the club just achieved, but also just looking forward, because there's a lot of great things going on with this club, with this roster, and with everything in general. So, Richard, appreciate your time joining us this evening for this episode, and best of luck in your prep for 2022. And we look forward to talking to you again in the near future.
Take care, guys. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, that's Richard Chaplow, the coach for your champion Orange County Soccer Club, on there. Let's get a big picture of Dylan there. I have a quick question for you though, Dylan. The stocking back there that was hanging over the shoulder of Richard, it looked like potentially a gnarly skin stocking. Is that potentially, or a gnarly fur stocking? Are we not going to see gnarly next season?
Maybe he sheds. It gets pretty warm here, even in the winter. But no, that was red and not orange, so I don't think we have to worry. There are a bunch of questions in the chat that we missed. Are there transfer rumors yet? There's always transfer rumors. but I spent enough time in some pretty warm water as I'm not gonna dip my toe in any further. Get into any trouble.
If anyone listened, I tried to get something of that out of Richard, but he's total professional, knew how to sort of skate around the question when I was asking him what can we look forward to in 2022, what players is he looking forward to working with, and again, he was very honest, and he can't really divulge any information. And I'm sorry, whoever was wanting us to ask about if he's talked to Braden Cloutier, I was waiting for Dylan to ask that question, but apparently Dylan didn't want to ask that question.
I also didn't see it. I imagine they talked.
I would assume so.
But in what concept, and does he want to talk about it? Yeah.
That's not a question that is really appropriate to ask for someone who just won a championship and did something in his own right,
Yeah. Let's do this.
I don't know, Ray, do you talk to the guy that you did your job before you about it?
No, I didn't. I honestly didn't. So, but I didn't win a championship either, so I don't know how that works. I'm not a champion at my job. Let's move back to the grades.
Try harder.
I think we ended with Nathan Smith. We got to go to the next, which is Sean McTague, who actually played in 4 matches. I was shocked when I saw that on the numbers here, but also only played in like 16 minutes or something like that, or 12 minutes of those 4 matches. Dylan, grade.
I gave him an incomplete. I mean, I gave Aiden Flanagan an incomplete for playing quite a few more minutes than him. So no disrespect to the kid. He's so young. But he didn't hit 18 until almost the end of the season. But yeah, the whopping 8 minutes that you've received is nothing to earn a grade.
And I'll say any minutes, any matches I'm calling out is based off of the whole 2021 in general. But I think they only played USL Championships, so maybe that doesn't need to be said. Can I just say I went with an incomplete. And I believe Brad went with an incomplete as well. So we don't need to stick too much on this unless Brad, you have something.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask. He was a call up from Orange County Academy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe see more of him next season. Hopefully can earn some time.
Perfect. Next on our list, Eero Markkinen, who had some nice moments and had some injury and didn't see much of him the remainder of the season there. Let's go to Brad first.
Oh, I changed my grade on him. I had him at a C+, and I like the guy. I thought he played well in some games this year, but and I know he got kind of thrust into the role that he was put in because of the injury to Adam John. But honestly, I expected a little bit more out of a 6'6" guy. He can be clumsy a little. I don't think he was very good with his ball skills, and the novelty of kicking the ball up and having him headed in is only a novelty and isn't really reliable. But when he did score, it was quite great, especially that one goal on June against Sacramento. I remember seeing that right before halftime or the end of the game. I just remember being next to the field and seeing it.
So I went with a grade for Eero Markkinen of B-, and here's why I did so. I felt he was brought in to be a target man, probably come in for spot time when we need a big man in the middle to potentially head in a ball. Unfortunately, due to some injuries early on the season, he was asked to do more than he probably was ever expecting to do with Orange County this season. So I can't blame him for that. I felt like in the moments that he did what he was expected of him, he did pretty decent, which was a few times that he knocked the ball to the back of the net with his head. But over the long period of time, we saw where the flaws are in Eero Markkinen's game. So if he's being asked to do one thing only, and that's just come in for spot time for his size and to knock some balls into the back of the net with his head, he did great, but everything else lowered it a little bit. So he may have gotten higher if he would have had the chance to play his role all season, but I went with a B-. But I think I still was the nicest out of all of us. What was yours, Dylan?
I'm not too far off of you. I gave him a C+. I don't think he was particularly great. He's had a number of, he's 30 and he's played at it feels like half that number of clubs at this point. So I wasn't expecting fireworks. And I do think he was kind of a victim of not playing the role that he was brought in to play, and then also, missed some pretty clear-cut chances that came back to haunt us. But also, he did provide, 4 goals isn't a ton in 14 appearances. It's not terrible, and he did kind of provide, for lack of a better term, a target for what we were trying to do at the front half of the season. It didn't seem like he was ever going to be good at holding up the ball, like Ugo Okoli or somehow Ronaldo Damas at the end of the season. So I know he was fit by the end of the year, but he knew that he wasn't going to see a moment of his time. But I do feel a little bit bad for him, not having probably the year he thought he was going to have out here, and probably also not seeing nearly as much of his brother out here as well.
I would have loved to see Markkanen play kind of the Jeremy Bokila role that Oakland Roots had, and where he would come on for 15 to 25 minutes in the end of the game and be given some really good opportunities to pick apart a defense that's tired. But being injured and being forced into roles that to cover for injury kind of was not his strong suit. He's not a 90-minute player.
I honestly think that's what the role was supposed to be for him, but because of what happened early on in the season, he was asked to do a lot more than he was going to do originally. So again, that's why I gave him a B- when I did that. Let's move on. Thomas Enevoldsen, definitely would be considered a fan favorite for his time, not just this season, but in past with the club. Struggled with some injuries as well, but did make 12 appearances, scoring 2 goals, 2 assists. Grades for Thomas Enevoldsen. I'll go to you first, Dylan.
I gave him a B, which is not to factor in the injury or the trying to play while clearly not quite fully fit when he first came back, and then kind of accepting his role towards the end as a sub player. But the level of professionalism that he brings is highly thought of within the club from other players, even as he chews them out occasionally. But just the level that he brought and the ability that he had as that sub to come on and just move the ball is something else. Even as simple as it was when he couldn't run at that point, and just taking a touch or playing a no-look pass in for Ronaldo getting behind the defenses. Probably not something you can teach, and something that he innately had, and I'm thrilled for him that he got to go out on top, standing on a table outside of a bar at 3:15 in the morning in St. Pete with a cigar in his mouth, directing a chorus of a bunch of drunken idiots screaming Enevoldsen baby. So, a B for him, but a lot of very good vibes in that B. Sorry, that was a very long answer.
That was. Brad?
I almost gave him a B-, but then I kind of have to remember Enevoldsen is kind of a leadership role within the team. He's a veteran that looked molded and kind of developed a bunch of players, and plus that goal against the Galaxy to kind of confirm a home playoff game to break a 0-0 draw at the death. Kind of swerved my decision to make it a B instead of a B-. But again, under 400 minutes, not much playing time, riddled with injury during the year. It's hard to really judge it based on just his performance on the field.
So I went with a B+. I would have gone B just like the both of you, but I felt like his importance to the end of the season there, the LA Galaxy goal, and even I think numerous people, just speaking with fans at a lot of the matches down the stretch, felt that Thomas Enevoldsen was a big part of some of those key victories. Even if he didn't get the stats, didn't get the goals or the assists, just him being out there opened up opportunities for the rest of his teammates and allowed Orange County to have that 9-match undefeated run or 9-match winning streak really to end the season there. He was a big part of that. That's why I had to bump him up to a B+. Next, we have Jack Imparato, who didn't who got off to a nice little start, played a few matches earlier in the season, and then went MIA after those 3 matches or those 3 appearances. Didn't play many minutes. Can I just call out the grade from all of us? We all gave an incomplete on this one because of the lack of playing time. Does anyone have any quick thoughts on Jack and Prado?
Nah.
Perfect. Brad's answering for you too, Dylan.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
No, go ahead. Did you have something to say?
I was going to say, I know he wasn't at the club for the entirety of the season, but I think that played into it. And by the time that he was back at the club, I know that he wasn't going to get a look in past some senior players that were doing something special.
Perfect. Next in order, another player that didn't get much playing time due to an injury first match of the season. That is Adam John, who played 1 match with Orange County, getting injured in Tacoma after playing 30-something minutes, I believe.
38 minutes.
38 minutes. Again, can I just answer for all of us? We all went with an incomplete because we didn't get to see enough work out of Adam John to give him a grade. Does anyone have a comment on Adam John's grade?
I mean, I hope his knee is feeling better. Oh, on his grade? No.
No.
Perfect. Then let's move on. Next on the list, Raymond Dre. Got to get the name right. Raymond Dre, another player that didn't see much playing time in the season, did make 8 appearances. He got 1 start in 2021, but no goals, no assists. He did get 2 yellow cards. Maybe you get a grade for that. What's the grade from you, Brad?
I gave him a C-, I think, or C+. C-. And mostly because, again, he's young, he's mistake prone. Didn't really contribute too much when he was on the field, but a C- isn't really like terrible. It's like just passing.
Dylan?
I give him an incomplete here. I know he played a couple times, and he was kind of plagued by injuries at the beginning of the season. And then just the bulk of the minutes I think we saw from him was against RGV, and he had a absolutely torrid timeout, which you kind of expect with the younger player, but ultimately not seeing enough time to come up with a grade there.
Yeah, I would have probably gone with a C+, but I bumped it up to a B- because of his first name. I agree with you all. We didn't see much from him this season. And he's another young player that has potential, but who knows where that's going to lead him in the future here. So I went with a B-. Next up, a player that I think many of us forgot even played in 2021 with Orange County. We were putting together our awards nominees or voting list, and his name appeared a couple times in some of the stuff we were looking at. And I think there was multiple comments like, was that 2021 that Reese Breen was with Orange County? I'm going to start off with my grade because here's my grade, A- for Reese Breen. He was only with us for a short bit of time, but in that short bit of time, he was a key part of this team. 5 matches, 5 starts, and a key goal line save from a defender or goal line clearance. He was very solid in the back line for Orange County, so much so that he was getting starts early on in the season. And this is from a young player coming from Scotland. So I went with an A-. Brad, what was your grade for Reese Breen?
Yeah, I'm looking at what I put. I put a C-, a C, and I think I'm more closer to the withdrawal state. He played a lot early on in his 5 games, and I thought he played well, but he went to Scotland, I believe, and I guess he's had some games up there. So I'm gonna change mine to a withdrawal.
Dylan, I know what yours is, but go for it.
Yeah, I gave him a withdrawal here, and that's no discredit to what he managed. He was like an incredibly fast Josh Oihold, basically, where he would just absolutely mow down a man, but actually get the ball and not do it inside the box or make glaring errors. Bummed we didn't get more out of him, especially through that injury crisis, but again, just a few minutes played there. It's not enough for a proper grade.
He did enough to show what his value was and what he was worth and how good he was. That's why I did not take the chicken route and give him a withdrawal. I went with a grade because he proved himself himself with the time at Orange County. Last one for the night, Tommy McCabe, who I think for a lot of fans had some ups and some downs and some ups again. I'm going to go to Dylan first for Tommy's grade. Tommy McCabe, Dylan.
I can't say his nickname on this podcast because it's a family podcast. I think that's a little bit cruel. I gave him a B. I think he was actually pretty good, error prone. He's a young player. That's a little weird to say because I think we're about the same age, but he's young and he had a lot asked of him this season. And for the most part, he was able to do that and really benefited from the emergence of a Dylan Powers and the emergence of an Eric Calvillo taking some of those responsibilities away from him.
Brad, your grade for Tommy McCabe.
I'm the highest grade here. I gave Tommy McCabe an A, and a lot of the things that I think he excelled at. I believe, God, what's his name? John Morrissey, USL Tactics, summed it up pretty well in one of his tweets. Tommy McCabe does a lot of things you don't see on the ball right. He's a good defender. He plays both ways and he plays hard and he does a lot of running. And he did get a lot better as the season went on. I remember after when they played in Pleasanton against Oakland, that's a suburb of the Bay Area. I remember talking to him after the game and kind of asking him where he saw himself and how he can improve. And he did exactly the things that he said. He became a much better defender, and definitely stepped up and was a solid contributor on a team, even though you don't call his name out on the score sheet very often. And that's why his jersey's in my closet around the corner from here.
Keep it in the closet instead of showcasing it for everyone to see. Here's my grade for Tommy. I gave him an A-. If he would have played the way he played towards the end of the season, the whole season, he would have probably gotten an A or maybe even an A+ for me. But because of the struggles early on, trying to find his role with Orange County, I gave him a little knock for that. So he got an A- from me. That's it, ladies and gentlemen, for our first part of the grades. We will grade the remaining players next week on our show. So stay tuned for that. Maybe we'll have Alan back for that one to provide his grades for the rest. And those names next week will include names like Kevin Alston, Ronaldo Damas, Darwin Jones, Patrick Rakowski, Chris Wehan, and others. Let's do this really quick. I know we're running a little bit long here, but I have a quick question for y'all. MLS Next Pro. Thoughts? Brad, go.
Oh man, MLS Next Pro, other than being a terrible name, it's an interesting dilemma, especially when you look at the USL Championship, because a lot of USL Championship players, their next and easiest, most direct pipeline in their career is the MLS. Well, especially for those younger players, do you go to a USL team and hopefully get noticed by either an international team and have to go abroad, or do you think the MLS continues to take players from the USL if they have their league of their own? I know it's D3 and it probably won't be as competitive, but I don't quite know the intentions of some of these teams, and it's an interesting dilemma that I'm not worried about for the next 3 or 4 years, but it'll be interesting to see how competitive it is, and does it take away talent from USL Championship squads?
Dylan, I'll get your thoughts, and then I have one last question about this.
Bad logo, bad font, bad idea, bad league, bad, I don't know, system.
And is there positives in it, though? You look at they're taking away a lot of the two teams from the USL. Is there a positive from that aspect of it?
It's too early to say. I mean, sure, but we're not an East Coast team that just gets to beat up on Loudoun or Luton United 5 or 6 times a season to pad our goal differential and pick up a good 18 points. So it's maybe it increases the parity East versus West in that one regard, but no, MLS is going to MLS no matter what. And I don't know. There's a reason that that's not really attractive to a lot of people, and that's why we're here.
I do want to add though that
Go for it.
I'm gonna miss teams like Real Monarchs. That team in itself had a lot of dedicated fans. There were, you know, dozens of people who were just great fans out there that couldn't really care as much about RSL. And yeah, the parity is going to be interesting to see how that changes up the league a little, because I know Chaplow said that there's 32 or 31 teams. I think it's probably going to be more like 26 or 27 next season, and it'll be interesting to see how the league schedules matchups. Maybe we see more East versus West and go back to just 2 divisions instead of 4.
I'm going to jump back to you really quick, Brad, since you're in a state that can actually set these types of odds. But what are the odds that we see Jamie Vardy playing in MLS Next in 4 or 5 years?
All right, next question.
I only say that because is it so random? Is it random that you have former Rochester Rhinos, now it's what, Rochester NYFC joining MLS Next Pro? That seems weird to me. That it's like they're like the lone
They're the lone
affiliated club
independent.
there. Yeah, that seems weird. And it seems like MLS is really trying to market this independent clubs will be part of this thing. What are your thoughts really quick on that? Is it something that'll work, or is this going to end up being strictly MLS reserve teams or second teams?
That's why I'm not as dismissive about Rochester Ryan, or about the MLS Next Pro as Dylan is, as being a stupid league. Because if you're going to get an independent team like Rochester to join, clearly there's something in their sales pitch that is going to work and poach away some of these minor league teams, independent teams, USL Championship caliber teams, because easily could have been with Jamie Vardy funding the bill, that Rochester could easily and probably should be in the USL Championship. So clearly there's something that's working there that is a good sales pitch for the organization.
Dylan, do we see Cal United Strikers join in MLS Next Pro in the near future? I know they're saying in 2023 there'll be some independent clubs join in. Is that one of them that has a chance, or are they staying with Nissan?
No, in my interactions with their club, it's about being a part of an open league, and this idea of a meritocracy, which is at odds with existence within MLS. So, no.
Okay. Similar straight. I know there's talks maybe Austin Bold would have a possibility because of their situation. There's going to be some interesting things over the next 12 to 18 months with some of these teams, and we'll see, maybe do they poach any USL Championship teams or USL League One teams to join MLS Next Pro. We'll see what happens with that. Any last soccer stuff anyone wants to talk about before we get to our random thoughts? I know we've gone long, but I just want to ask. Random thought time. Dylan, you go first.
Wow, I find myself so unprepared, but we're running late, so I don't know. Take it easy. Have a good rest of your week. I'll see you next Tuesday. It's not much of a random thought, but it's all I've got for you at this point.
Brad.
Well, we just had our opening night for our musical, Elf the Musical, and it's a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing it, and maybe I'll let my girlfriend talk me into doing more musicals in the future. But to circle back to where we started the night, Malort isn't actually that bad, guys.
Do not touch it. If you've never touched Malort, do not touch it, folks. We're telling Dylan and I have firsthand experience of this stuff, and I think our producer Andy as well. Do not touch Malort. Random thought that I have is the wife and I just started watching a show on Apple TV Plus, whatever it's called Dickinson. Apparently it's about some real life person named Emily Dickinson, that was a writer or a poet or something like that. Dylan probably knows who this person is because he reads a bunch of random stuff. But it's actually a pretty interesting show. And maybe this Emily Dickinson person is a good poet. We'll find out as we watch more of the show. Dylan, any thought? Have you seen the show, or do you know anything about this person, Emily Dickinson?
Yeah, she's pretty well known. I will not be watching the show.
let's go and wrap things up here. I want to thank our guest, Richard Chaplow from Orange County Soccer Club, head coach, championship head coach, for joining us this episode. Join us next week as we wrap up our player grades. Oh yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we have our awards. The voting is still open. If you want to vote for the Orange and Black Soccer Cast awards, do so. We'll reveal the winners in just 2 weeks from now on who wins those awards. For Dylan, for Brad, for Alan, who's missing this week, and for our producer, Andy, this is the Orange and Black Soccer Cast. Oh yeah, I'm Ray, and we are out.
Oh, God.